All right. So, I'm making a video for my boss. That way he knows what equipment and what were my stats for when I beat Malenia. So welcome to my Elden Ring video. It's one in a million. But this is what I did. Okay, so here we go. First and foremost, let me show you my 6 stats. And what we're looking at is I just kind of capped out at 50 on that faith. I have too much arcane, but that's like whatever. So if you need points to go into faith or endurance, especially since we were talking about like heavy armor build, right? I got the bull goat stuff going on here. And that, while being like super heavy, right, gives you a ton of poise, gives you a ton of physical resistance, was really what you're going to want. It's also important to kind of have the Great Jar's Arsenal. That's going to get you a way higher maximum equip load. I like having a ton of stamina, so Green Turtle Talisman for that increased recovery speed, as well as just straight up stamina boost on that whatever. And then Shard of Alexander. Now this is key to the Blasphemous Blade build, because you're always going to be using that, oh no, this is the wrong screen. That you're always going to be using that effect, which is going to be the Taker's Flames. And that is that huge move that you see. It does a shit ton of damage. It does a shit ton of poised damage, so that way, like, you're constantly knocking Malenia over. Makes it super tight. And again, it's like the biggest thing is knocking her down and the damage. It's also sweet because it's like a really long attack, so you can have like all that distance. And it's also important to note that it's a fire attack. And we wanted it to be a fire attack because, sitting down at the fire, I'll show you the spells that we're going to be using. Now, you can use like whatever talisman that you want to use. That's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that you're going to want Flame Grant Me Strength. And that is huge because you not only get a buff to your physical attack, but you also get a buff to your fire damage. So it's like a 25% to both physical and fire. And guess what? The Tasker's Flame, physical and fire. So you're basically getting like, I don't know, bullshit it, 50% damage increase because you gave yourself this buff. Another thing that's really sweet to have is the Black Blade. And let's see if I can do it. Yeah. Now the Black Blade is super tight. And I had it equipped for the Mimic tier because I used that as my summon. And I only have these spells, so that way the Mimic tier is forced to use the weapon art, Tasker's Flame. The buffs that we were talking about, Flame Grant Me Strength or Golden Vow or whatever, increases defense and attack. But you want this for that Mimic, because if he is going to cast, the most important thing with Black Blade is that it not only deals the damage, but it reduces the maximum HP of Malenia. And the shittiest part about Malenia is she's always sapping health away. So this is going to lower that max HP every time it hits. And again, while you knock Malenia over with Tasker's Flame, the Mimic tier may or may not cast it, but if Malenia gets hit by the Black Blade, boom, max HP down, easy money. So that's why I just equipped with these few spells, just so your Mimic tier doesn't use anything else. It's only going to be using Tasker's Flame, Black Blade, and if it needs a buff, it's going to hit you with Flame Grant Me Strength, which we talked about. And again, Golden Vow I talked about a little bit. Honestly, though, I only use this right before I go in the fight. And then after in the fight, it takes way too long to cast. Flame Grant Me Strength is super quick. So again, if you run out, you could just run away, buff yourself real quick, and then you're good to go. And I think what I didn't really go over that well was my actual stats. I think I'd go to the equipment because it's a little bit better. So again, the biggest thing, I think I mentioned Faith. I mentioned Arcane. I put some in there. Didn't really need to. So you can use it for other things. You just want your strength right here. You can see the strength and dex requirements here. you could basically hit the minimums. I only have more because I use different weapons, and that's like the strength requirement for the gravesite is 23. You know what I mean? So not that important. Just make sure it hits the min here. You're good to go. The biggest thing is endurance. You're going to want a ton of this on top of the jar, on top of the Viridian Amber Medallion, especially +2 if you got it, because that's really going to affect your equip load. And then you can equip the buffest of buff armors with still having the medium load, medium roll. That's the kind of key here. Bring that guy back up. Mind, I actually need that pretty high. It allows you to cast the Tasker's Flame multiple times, which is like super clutch. That way you're not constantly drinking. And then Vigor is just like whatever. Whatever else you have, you know, you're going to want a decent amount. So if you could take some of the small hits, but we both know, like, when she does that dive attack and then you get hit with the Scarlet Rot explosion, it's like one hit kill, no matter what. So just have a decent bit enough to make sure that you can take a bunch of small hits, and then you could still heal and stuff like that. This is all up to you, how you want to allocate your flasks, but I'd highly recommend that you're going to have a decent bit of health, and at least 4. That should get you through the fight, maybe 5 max, because again, you're going to want more health. But the 5 should give you enough MP to be able to cast Tasker Flame to death. So, but that was my build. The only other thing I could point out, again, you're going to want to go for the buffest armor that you got here. I like Radahn's Lion armor, because if I do go to the buffer, I hit heavy load, and then you're fat rolling, and that's definitely not what you want. So Radahn's armor is like the highest of the physical stuff. Tree Sentinel is alright, but the downside is that the weight is like an extra couple pounds, which you just can't take. I could take it now, but that's only because I leveled up my endurance after beating her. But if you could do it, definitely go the Tree Sentinel. And if you, I don't know how you would do it, but if you got enough, you go for the buff item armor down here. That's the top stuff. But I just do Radahn, and then like min-maxing the Greaves is super important, and then the helmet. You could switch out the gauntlets for something a little bit lower, to save that extra 3 pounds wherever you can. Just because again, you're min-maxing how much resistance you have versus the weight. So you kind of balance it out however you can. Again, the most important one is the Greaves, because this gives you that pretty good damage negation, and then you're going to want a decent chest piece as well. But that's just how I min-maxed it. So yeah, enjoy this video. You could rewatch it as much as you want just to know what build I use. Again, you're going to want Mimic Tier as your summon, and then you will both just spam the hell out of this. I'll bring it back up because Tasker's Flame is like super clutch. Fire physical damage, super long range, and most importantly, a shit ton of poise damage. So whenever Malenia goes up for the waterfowl dance, swinging swords all over the place, more than likely you'll knock her down and just get into a stun lock until you could just, what I call the rush down. You just want to rush her down, don't even give her a chance to attack you, and the both of you, if you're lucky with what the Mimic Tier does, will just stun lock her forever. Anyways, hopefully this is helpful to you. This is like my second YouTube video, but I'm going to do it. Like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day, I guess.